It's not about who is installed, it's about how. And right now, we're still, I think, stuck in the same cycle of Palestinians waiting to see what the Americans want, what the Europeans are willing to live with, rather than what the Palestinians in the West Bank, in Gaza want, and in which direction they want to go.
The Palestinian Authority's Prime Minister, Mohammed Shtayyeh, and his government have submitted their resignations to President Mahmoud Abbas, citing escalating violence in the West Bank, which the authority partly governs, and the war in Gaza. Why now? And what are they making room for? The US has been asking for Palestinian representation for after this current conflict. Is this the first step? Nour Odeh, former spokesperson for the Palestinian Authority, joins me now. Nour, thank you for taking the time to talk to me. Just first of all, because, it is quite a sort of confusing array of rulers, as it were, in the Palestinian territories. Can you just explain the power sharing in the West Bank with the authority and their relationship or not to Hamas?
Well, the Palestinian Authority does not include Hamas. This is the recognized political body, if you will, of the Palestinians. The resignation of the prime minister in this presidential system means that the government would change. It doesn't mean a fundamental political change in the political system, but it also doesn't mean Palestinians are any closer to unifying that system, which is divided between the PA and Hamas. And it doesn't mean that Palestinians are any closer to finding a way forward past this war on Gaza, past all the complications that come on the day after that war.
Yeah, and Nora, of course, we're used to Gaza occupying the headlines for very
Mm.
obvious reasons, but the war has also impacted on the West Bank. I think there's been something like 401 Palestinians shot by Israeli forces by Israelis since October the 7th. Is that right? And how does it connect?
Well, it's absolutely connected. Gaza and the West Bank are part of a whole. They are maybe politically divided or ruled by different factions, but they are home to the same people. And the reality on the ground in the West Bank had been going from bad to worse even before October 7th. And as you rightly pointed out, there have been about 400 Palestinians killed by Israeli settlers and soldiers, including 100 children, just since October the 7th. A record number, as we see in UN reports, of Palestinian homes demolished, record number of land confiscated by the Israeli government to make way for Israeli settlements. So the challenges are, overwhelming for any Palestinian government, especially now, given the fact that Israel has basically withheld Palestinian tax revenues and broken the coffers of the Palestinian government. They have no money to pay salaries, to pay for services, to deliver on the basic and on the bare minimum required of them towards their people.
And where did the Palestinian Authority stand on what happened on October the 7th?
Well, the Palestinian Authority is the representative of Palestinians, or so it claims, and it must answer to the 2.3 million people who are predominantly displaced, who are now starving, and who have no access to medical services in Gaza. It has been unable to do what it must to meet the needs of its people. And right now, it is faced with a very serious challenge. On the one hand, the international community wants serious reforms in the PA. On the other, the Palestinian public overwhelmingly wants to see a very fundamental change in the Palestinian political system, not just to see people change, to see a change in faces, but also to see a Palestinian government that is inclusive and representative and working towards holding elections after the war is done, and elections are practically possible. And that would need necessarily Palestinian reconciliation and the inclusion of all factions, not just the one ruling over the PA.
Because no, one of the things that this war in Gaza, this catastrophe that we're watching unfold at the moment, one of the things that it's highlighted is the poor level of Palestinian leadership that
Mm.
people have had up till now, and the poor decisions that have been made that have all contributed in one way or another to the situation on the ground today, including Hamas rejecting the Oslo Accord and so on. But also, there's very little democracy. I mean, the Palestinian Authority, I think, hasn't held elections in 15 years, something similar to Hamas. It doesn't feel like the Palestinian people and the PLO before them, as well, retiring to Switzerland in big houses with, a lot of funds. So it doesn't feel like the Palestinian people have ever had the representation that they need in order to achieve the two-state solution or whatever solution might be on the table.
Well, I don't know about retirement in Switzerland, but certainly the Palestinians have had a chance to have clear, a fair elections on two or three occasions in the past 30 years during the Oslo Accords, which are dead, as declared by Israeli leaders. Um, but then that agency was taken away from them, and it was not just taken away from them by Palestinian failing and Palestinian infighting, but also by an international community that was terrified of how Palestinians would vote and that was far more willing to see a government that appeases Western allies than to listen to the people and to have agency and to have regular elections held every 4 years as Palestinians would want. So there is a fundamental challenge here. And I don't think that we're seeing a change in the Western approach to this. We are still seeing and hearing from the US wanting a government that fits their standards, not listening to the Palestinians, not really caring to know what answers the Palestinian needs of governance. And that is very problematic. It doesn't signal to the Palestinian public that this would be a functional government, certainly not one able to function and operate in Gaza after the war.
Indeed, but just I mean, you say that the signals aren't coming from Western leadership. What about the signals from Palestinian leadership? Are they suggesting? I mean, we started talking about the resignation of the Prime Minister Shtayyeh. Is this an indication that change is afoot? Does it mean anything in the great scheme of things? Why has he resigned, and the rest of the government?
I think he's resigned because the Palestinian president understands that there are pressures, that there are international pressures. And again, because he has conditioned the staying in power to um, Western acceptance. These are the kinds of signals that he answers to. So the government needs to change, but I don't see that as a signal that elections are coming or that reconciliation is coming. The Palestinian failing in terms of leadership has, in many ways, to do with the fact that they are answering to international diktats rather than what the Palestinian public wants. And what the Palestinian public wants, as we see from one poll after another, is a united political system that includes all actors, that does not exclude anybody, even though that might translate into sanctions, which is basically one of the things that has obstructed Palestinian reconciliation for 17 years. But Palestinians basically have been denied the right to try these factions, to punish them when they don't do well, to change government, to change presidents through the ballot box, which is how things should be done. It's not about who is installed, it's about how. And right now, we're still, I think, stuck in the same cycle of Palestinians waiting to see what the Americans want, what the Europeans are willing to live with, rather than what the Palestinians in the West Bank, in Gaza want, and in which direction they want to go.